Welcome back to Zachary Family Hobbies. I wanted to take a moment to talk to you about what we use when we're pulling cards out of packs. So the first thing we do, and you'll see this in our videos, is we want to throw a card, and throw, I mean gently slide in our cards into a penny saver. Now, I personally prefer the Ultra Pro. However, you'll see in a moment, we use the BCWs frequently because we have a lot of extra ones. Now, you'll see the 2.5 inch versus the 2 5/8 inch. I prefer 2 5/8. However, the quality, I like the Ultra Pro. Now, once they're in a penny saver or penny sleeve, the next thing is to use a top loader. And the top loader that I usually go with is with BCW. So I like Ultra Pro's penny saver. However, I like BCW's top loader. And because a lot of these top loaders come with packs of penny sleeves like these come together in sets. That's why I have a bunch of these. Now, this is the 2 mil, so these are a little nicer, a little bit bigger. You got to be careful about putting them in, but it helps with certain cards, especially sports cards versus Pokemon cards. Pokemon cards, having the rounded edges, are a little easier to put into tighter sleeves, such as the 2.5 inch. These, being 2 5/8, they give it a little bit more room for bigger cards and sports cards. So I like to use those. Now, that's for long-term saving. If I have a very special card that I'm concerned about, I will put them into a hard case. Now, there's a few different examples that I have. One thing I'll note is there's Screwdowns. Screwdowns are a very commonly used version. But you notice how this one is a cutout? I don't know if you can see that in the video. I do not recommend these, and I'll tell you why. So these cutouts are not, they're thick, so it kind of protects the card a little bit. You can almost see the edging inside of that. The problem is it isn't flat. So if it's not flat, then it's not going to keep it from bending. An example is this card. Now, this is not a regular trading card or a sports card, anything like this. This is just something that I picked up when I was a very young kid. I liked how it looked. It was just something I grabbed. It expired back in 1997, but it's a Mickey Mantle phone card. The newer generations don't even know what those are. But if you'll notice, look how the light hits it. You see the bubbling. You see how there's waves that's built in? Well, it was originally in a case like this. And you see, this is actually a smaller case specifically made for this type of card back in the day. The problem is, because it was cut out, there was room for it to kind of condense. And again, this is from the mid-90s. So this particular item, unfortunately, got ruined, or not totally ruined, but got a lot of waves inside of it. So you got to be very careful. So what I like to do, and what I put it in now, you'll notice this is a regular screw down. So there's no cutouts, nothing special for it to move. Now, having said that, you got to be careful, because I did have one card. You don't want to screw it down too tight for too long. And I'll give you an example why. Now, I don't know for sure, but this is a beautiful Bart Star that my dad picked up when I was a kid, a long time ago. And he bought it, gave it to me. But if you look closely, you see that? That is some stress fractures in the card itself. So it's not in the best shape to begin with. However, this card would have graded much better had it not been damaged. And that damage, I believe, is from stress of being in a screw down that was screwed way too tight. Again, I was a young child when I had this card, so I didn't necessarily know what I was doing. So if you do use a screw down, be careful, especially with older flimsy cards like this, not to screw them down too hard. There are other types of cards and cases. I don't necessarily recommend these, but I do have a bunch of them because someone gave them to me for free. So there's all kinds of cards out there. This particular type of card, you'll notice, comes together. It has these little notches so that they can stack together. And you'll see down here, there's a little button that you push. Here's the thing. These little joints here have to separate. So this plastic top piece needs to slide over before it can come off. I'll give you an example. So if I push this down, so I hold this top part with my finger, push this down, and it pops out. I don't know if you saw that, but it pops right out. Okay, like that. Now, this one has the cutout. Again, I got a bunch of these for free. This particular Gyarados CX is already damaged and not in great shape, and I just love this card, how it looks. I'm a bit of a Gyarados fan, but just to give you an idea of why this can be a dangerous item to use is watch. These joints have to come in. First, you have to put this bottom piece in to the hole, put the joints together, and then literally slide it until it snaps. So they're snap tight, there's no screws, which is part of the benefit. There's no screws involved. You don't have to have a screwdriver, but you got to be careful. And also, if you have a penny saver, you can't just drop this card in. The penny saver is going to be bigger than the cutout. So when you put it back on, you got to be very, very careful. I'm sure some people, if you're watching this, are maybe a little nervous. So you got to look, make sure none of the lines are covering the card, and then snap it in. So if you look, see? Nope. So it's not inside. It's all inside the line. So we're safe. The card is not bent, but if you accidentally put it in between and you slide it, you have now, you'll cause lines in your card itself. So you got to be very, very careful. So moving on, penny sleeves are also useful if you want to grade. So the last thing I want to talk about is what type of grading sleeve. So I use Ultra Pro for my penny sleeves. I use BCW for my top loaders. What do you think I use for grading? A whole different company, Card Saver. I love Card Savers. I think these are better than most of the ones on the market. These are the Card Saver ones. Semi-rigids, beautiful cards. And you just slide the card in the top. And I don't have one with me right now, but you just slide it in the top once you have the penny saver. And then, actually, let's just take this Gyarados out. Show you how that works. Okay, what I do is I take the card saver. I pop out this top part. Okay, you gotta be careful because these are semi-rigid, they'll fall apart. Right, and I just slide the card in. And if I have it open like this, it goes in without any damage. I'm not pushing it, I'm not forcing it. If I need to, I can pop it back out, shift it a little bit. I want to try to center it, and I want to keep it near the top because the further you go down, you're going to be pushing the corners. And when you have a grading, you don't want them having to dig down to pull out your stuff. So you want to keep it near the top. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you can separate these as few or as many as you want when you send them off to grading with cardboard. Separating either stacks, I think the recommended is about no more than 5 at a time. Just depends on what you do. So 3 different companies, but different people like what they like. These are just recommendations of what I've used, and I've had different experiences. So I recommend those. But if nothing else, I recommend definitely using penny sleeves and top loaders long term, and then Card Saver. Or if you want something a little bit more rigid, then the Card Saver one. Honestly, the company to go with is CGC's brand. I am bigger on PSA grading for cards. However, the CGC semi-rigids are a little bit tougher, so they're less likely to bend or cause problems. So if you want something a little bit more rigid, go with the CGC version. Thank you very much. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again.